1.
So thanks for joining. Just a little disclaimer, this is not a real counseling session, but a roleplay video for a counseling assignment. Thank you so much for coming in today. I really appreciate, you coming in, and it might be difficult, but we're gonna just ask some questions, kind of work through some things. So we'll start off with some really basic questions. Just tell me your name, your occupation, and we'll go from there.
Yes. So, my name is James Jones, and I'm, what was the other questions? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're okay. Occupation and age.
I'm 32, and I'm a delivery driver.
Okay. And are you married, kids, or anything?
Neither.
Nothing. Okay. That's good. And then, can you just give me a little bit of background of your family and your history and everything like that?
Well, it's complicated.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely say that I had a fairly normal family. Life's been good for many years. Not really any problems with that. A few bad relationships when I was young, and not really much has happened in probably the last 8 years.
Okay. And I know on your kind of initial intake form before we started the session, you just talked a little bit about feelings of hopelessness and not really going anywhere. Can you just talk a little bit more about what that really means?
Yes. Well, I think in probably the past year has been very difficult. Just feeling like I'm not going anywhere with, my job, or watching friends and family do everything that normal people are supposed to do, but it feels like it's not me. Like relationships and families and all these things. Watching everybody that I know get married and go off. But I'm still at my old job, I'm still in the same town. It just feels like my life is kind of ground to a halt, I'd say.
And you said that's been kind of over the past year and everything.
Yes, that I've begun to really notice kind of that it's everyone is changing and moving on, but it feels like I'm not.
And I know you talked a little bit about your family and everything. Do you feel that you have the support of friends and families around you, or do you feel kind of isolated and alone?
Yes and no. I think oftentimes I have at least, I'm speaking for many people, but as well as myself. When I say that, I feel like I have their support in words, but not in action, if that makes sense. Everyone says that they'll, take the time, or meet up, or have conversations, or spend time together, but rarely is time actually made in their schedules or in just their day-to-day life. So it can be very difficult to understand if they're being genuine.
So it kind of sounds, with everything going on with your friends and family, that they're all moving forward, reaching their goals, moving on, and you're kind of getting left in the dust. How has your motivation been then in this past year?
Very off and on, I think. Some days I'll wake up and feel great, go do what I need to do, and try to meet new people or do different things, and then sometimes for 3 or 4 days, if I have a weekend off, I don't leave my house, or I don't eat anything, or I can't sleep, or something like that. So it's very up and down, I think, my life right now.
Yeah, it sounds like there's nothing really consistent about what's going on.
No patterns, no habits, no. It's, I kind of live how I feel when I wake up in the morning.
And what would you say this morning has been like?
It's been a good day, I think. Yeah, probably. I don't know. I had a good day at work today, so
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of flows on until the flow kind of stops. Whatever
Mhm.
that is. That might be tomorrow or that might be next week.
And then when the flow kind of stops, where do you kind of notice that your thoughts and your feelings kind of go from there? How are they dictated?
I think I get. It feels like, I've experienced this for many years now, off and on, that I start being not genuine, you know? Where I feel like I kind of am living in a fantasy of like the good things are a fantasy and it is just gonna end soon. It won't, one day I'll like snap out of it and be like, okay, your reality is actually everything but what's been good. I think that's one thing that I have noticed, that I start to become aware of, as if I'm watching myself perform the actions, or you know, if I try to meet someone new and I'm talking to them, it's like I have a third person view and I'm watching myself talking, and the voice inside my head is saying, that's not you, stop that, like go, it's not you. So I think that's definitely one thing that I see as a marker of that.
That must be really hard. Just feeling as if you're watching yourself in this third party, kind of non-existent, just floating. So I appreciate you sharing that, and it can be hard kind of dealing with those deep emotions and, you know, those patterns of just feeling a little stuck. Well, would you say in this course of being up and down and everything, have you had any thoughts? You know, you talked about the end and that the fantasy would end. In that reality, is it you ending the fantasy, or is it something else that's ending the fantasy? Does that make sense?
Yes, it's good. I think it's hard to say. I think it's it's not like another person, but it's the part of me that's real that says that it will end, that I'm just not going to do it anymore. I think because I don't know how to describe it, but it's like there's this part of me that says, okay, that's not real. And eventually you're going to run out of things that aren't real. And then you're going to be left with me, which is what's real. And then it's not really worth dealing with that, you know? If that makes sense, it's hard to describe.
No, you're doing a good job describing it, and I appreciate you. I know sometimes it can be difficult just talking about things that you're feeling in a space, and it sounds like it's almost like a rat race, that you're kind of on a wheel and just trying to keep up with this pattern, and sometimes it feels as if the pattern will one day run out. And with this set of circumstances with your friends and family moving on, do you feel as if your life still has purpose and meaning in what you're doing?
So much more. I think it's just kind of it's like a string almost. You just kind of come by the end of it and that's it. There's nothing else. I don't really see any big goal to work towards anymore. There's not much. Just kind of making sure that there's not much, because I don't have anyone to care for. I don't really have friends around very much anymore, so it doesn't seem like it would matter much.
So it sounds like through it all, you kind of feel isolated and alone.
I would say that is.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sure that can be really devastating in a lot of things, especially at one time you had a community, group of friends and family, and now it feels as if you're all alone. And I just want to make sure, you know, in the intake and everything, you talked about feeling kind of hopeless and alone. You haven't had any thoughts or feelings towards, you know, hurting yourself for ending your life, because, you know, our lives are valuable, and just want to make sure you're in a safe space.
I think so. Sometimes it's definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's never too extreme. Some days I'll, just feel like I'm not really worth taking care of, and so I will just not maybe eat that day, or or many times I take out like I punish myself if I fail at something or don't live up to my own expectation, and so but it's nothing too serious at this point, I don't think.
So it's almost as if you're saying you still find enough value in your life that you want to stay alive and everything, but through the struggle and through the depression, it's almost like you punish yourself in some aspects by maybe not eating or not doing the things that you love.
Because I don't know, if I was good enough, then those things would be easy. Those things would be simple. I wouldn't feel guilty for that there are people in the world who are worth more who aren't eating, so why should I? Like, there may be a child somewhere who's smart and just doesn't have enough food to eat, while I'm over here wasting my life with nothing to live for. Maybe it could go to them. That's kind of what I think.
So you almost view your life as not as valuable as maybe other people's lives.
Perhaps.
And
maybe I've had my chance and I've missed my shot to be something. So now I'm just here.
so you feel like your life is almost over, even though you're still young.
In a sense. So I'm just moving out the street.
So living out the string and the fact that you don't know when the string is going to run out, but so it's more of just kind of existing.
I think so. More of a. I feel like I would be more trouble if I did something the other way. Because if I wasn't here, obviously my family and friends would be sad, I hope. But then also, if I'm here too much, then I'm taking, again, and not really giving anything back. So I'm kind of in this in between where, not, it's too expensive, too painful for other people to not be here, but it's too much for me to be more. So, and I think that goes with the good days and bad days as well.
Now on those bad days per se, would you say that you have friends and family that you can kind of, I know you talked about your friends and family kind of being distant, moving on with their lives and things like that, but would you ever feel as if you have a safe space that you can be able to talk to them about maybe the struggles of just having a string of bad days or feeling at the end of your string?
I feel like if I were to say something to them, I would get a response things that would not give the meaning, if that makes sense. They
Mm-hmm.
would say, oh, it's okay, just tough it out, you know? And those might work for someone else, but I've heard it too many times. I've said it to myself too many times to really believe it anymore. So I feel like it would be that, or they might say, well, what's wrong with your life? Look at other people. They have it worse. I've tried a couple times to talk to people, and that's pretty much what they say. They say, you know, you have a job, you have a house, you eat enough to live. What are you complaining about? So I feel like, again, very guilty for saying anything, and then it becomes competition on myself is harder, and I don't want to trouble people.
Well, I'm so sorry that you have experienced that, and people haven't taken into consideration, maybe what you're going through, and don't see things through your own lens. It can be really difficult, especially when you have all these emotions and these hardships that people just don't really understand. So, but know that your struggle is very valid, and that even though people might see that through their lens, that it doesn't mean that you have to put on a happy face or try to toughen it out. But we can work together to make strides to finding that purpose and finding that value. So with this end of the string analogy, you haven't made any attempts to make a plan or to have any thoughts of, to the extreme of cutting the rope yourself, correct?
I'd say I've thought about it. Sometimes in the very hard times, I have thought. Easy. Thought about it. Not really like bought anything or planned anything per se. Sometimes I have hurt myself a couple of times, and sometimes I feel I deserve it. But then when that happens, usually it scares me, and so I don't go any further. One time I made a mistake and it really scared me. It's like I don't do that very much anymore.
Well, thanks for sharing. That's very scary, and that can be really painful to bring up. So thanks for just having the courage to share that with me, because I want to make sure you're safe. And would you feel comfortable that maybe we talk about a plan of, if you feel like in that hard time, in that space, maybe someone we can reach out to, maybe something we can do to kind of get our mind off of it, so we don't go into that bad place, so we don't go into that, idea of thinking about the rope. Maybe something self-care, like maybe take for a walk. Maybe you do have that one friend that maybe you don't even have to tell them that you're having that deep thoughts, but you can just talk to and be encouraged by, because we never want it to come to the space of, cutting that rope or, hurting ourselves, because we want to keep you safe and healthy. That sounds great. So maybe a family member? Do you have a family member that's you're kind of close with, or even a friend or someone maybe you can call? Even text maybe would be easiest.
The person I drive deliveries with.
Okay, that's good.
It's been 5 days ago. 20 hours together. Seems very nice. So
Okay. That's
there
good.
might be someone then that needs to know.
Right.
We've always been positive, and
That's good.
sometimes we feel like we're kind of, in it together.
Mm-hmm.
Work is hard and it's hot out or something like that. So definitely that's a possible person.
Yeah, that's good. And what's maybe one thing we can do if we're having those thoughts that can maybe help us get in a better headspace?
Maybe exercise.
Okay, that's good.
Cook or something.
Yeah,
I like cooking.
cooking's good.
Yeah. Or going for a run or things.
That's good. Those are both good starts. Maybe even you can incorporate cooking and inviting a friend over, reaching out and making a meal for them. So then you have a person with you and you're able to do something and kind of get your mind off that. And so, kind of leaving today, do you feel like you're in a safe space walking out of this counseling room and everything, that we're in a good spot? Okay. That's good. Well, I think we're headed in a good direction, and thank you for sharing all those beautiful things. And yeah, absolutely. And we'll meet again next week.
Okay.
All right.